Welcome back, Flare community. I hope you're all well and having an incredible day as always. And yes, it's time for a stream. We're actually going to be listening in to a X discussion, an X space about Enosys and the broader ecosystem. And I think it's going to have a strong focus on Enosys loans. We've got Kenneth in the chat. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And yeah, let's have a quick peek at what we're looking at today. If you are watching this at a later date and want to just jump straight into the space, feel free to fast forward another 5 minutes because that's when it is due to start. If you want to hang around, we're going to be going through what Liquity is, what Enosys is, and giving a bit of an overview, a bit of a background, some context before we actually jump into this space. As you can see, it is due to start at 4 p.m. UTC, which is in about 5 minutes. And the space agenda, let's say, is the Enosys ecosystem and what you can do on the Flare network, the Enosys decentralized exchange, and yield farming opportunities that are available, and also the ongoing airdrop for Liquity mainnet users. And this is why this is being hosted by Liquity. This is a huge protocol, and this is actually the Enosys loans is actually a friendly fork of the Liquity protocol. So what does that mean? It means that Liquity has a protocol. This is the loans platform, and Enosys has paid them a license fee in order to deploy that onto the Flare network. This is an exclusive fee, an exclusive protocol on Flare, so no one else can actually copy this and try to imitate and duplicate it again. If we go here, one of the conditions for their licensing fee is to airdrop some of the APS token, the APSIS token. So this is basically for the Liquity users on their mainnet. $850,000 airdrop for Liquity V2 users. Enosys Global, the Liquity V2 fork on Flare network, is allocating 412.5 APS, which is 2.75% of the supply, to the bold users. And that's their native asset from their protocol. I believe it's actually deployed on Ethereum. So they're going to be talking a little bit about this, I am sure, but broadly, this is going to bring a lot of the larger investors from Ethereum, hopefully, to the Flare network because of this airdrop. Of course, Ethereum has a huge, thriving DeFi ecosystem, and it would be great to get some of those whales involved on the Flare network because the airdrop is actually based on the holdings for bold users. So yeah, we're just going to see how that plays out here. We've got Thanasimos here talking about the CDP. So CDP is what you get. It's called the collateralized debt position, which basically allows you to lend out your XRP or FLR and provide it as collateral and get a stable coin as a loan. And this allows you to maintain the exposure to the underlying asset while still having access to a stable coin. And there's some great opportunities to earn APY within this protocol, as you can see, hovering around 35% up to 40% plus on a stable coin, and that is absolutely crazy. We've got this here, which is actually the interface for loans. So you can basically borrow, as I said, stable coins, which is CDP, the collateralized debt position, and then you get to use that by providing it into the stability pool or provide liquidity on their various protocols that they have. So something to note is APS. It took a bit of a hit recently, quite a significant hit, which is not the best, but I've always said that I favor Helion, which is their other governance token, which is performing much better. So that is pretty much it. We've got our best in the house. Hope you're doing well. Tim Rogers, Randy Man having a bit of a rant. Yeah, this is basically capitulation. Airdrop scam is something that just really highlights how little understanding you have of the network, right? I don't think you can actually lose any money receiving something for free. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So that's what we're going to be listening into today. We're listening to Liquity here. should be starting in just about 1 minute. So I'll probably just open this here. There we go. So they'll probably do what they more normally do, which is hang about for a little bit, have a brief introduction. So I'll probably start this in just a short moment, and we'll listen in. You know, I'll turn the volume on the microphone down, and we'll have a bit of a discussion. If you've got any questions, we'll hopefully be able to answer them. But I think this Enosys Loans is a really great protocol. It's brought over a lot of TVL, total value locked, for the Flare network, because people are actually able to put their FXRP to use, basically by borrowing a stable coin from using their FXRP as collateral, and then putting it into stability pools, that stable coin, to start earning a yield. You can see here 30 to 40%, which is absolutely crazy for a stable coin. Okay, here we go. So let me just see if there's any more people that have joined in here on this one. I'm going to start listening in and see if they've started talking. Here we go. Give them a little wave. Probably just start warming up the mics here. You can see the host is muted. Probably get Thanasimos on stage as a speaker. There he is. Okay, I can see why Randy's so upset here.
Cool, I hear you loud and clear. Let me just share it in our socials as well so people are aware.
So Randy wants to claim his FLR because he, 3 years ago he got the airdrop, he didn't participate, he didn't claim it, and now he's a bit upset because he didn't claim it. Sorry, mate, they've been burnt, and yeah, this was well documented. If you're unable to go through the process of claiming, then that's not a fault of the network. The network is not a scam because of it. It's just because you lack the technical ability to follow a video. I created plenty to show exactly how to do it, plenty of walkthroughs. It was well documented, and yeah, it is what it is. Okay, guys, we're gonna tune this microphone down and listen into the actual space once they start talking. So let's see what they got to talk about. The Enosys ecosystem. See the room filling up here as well. I don't know, Randy, you sound a bit upset. How much Flare has been burnt to date? It's a good question. A lot of people missed out simply because they didn't claim.
Cool, I think people are flowing in, so I think we can begin in the
Sorry
presence of
about that, guys.
time. Thank you, everyone,
Bad
for joining another
mic.
Twitter Spaces with us here at Liquity. It's been a while since we did our last one, and today very excited to have a very successful friendly fork on Flare Networks in Enosys, who just launched, I believe, a little over a month ago, Darren, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a little over a month.
And have done very well in getting over 10 million in TVL, over 5 million in the CDP minted. They have a DEX, and rather than me talking about it, what would be great is if we had Darren, who is the CSO of Enosys, maybe giving a quick heads up as to what's going on in there. So yeah, we're going to be chatting about Enosys, what you can do there. There's a lot of things on the Flare network that you can do, especially in their decks as well. And we're also going to be talking a little bit more about the rewards for Liquity mainnet users, where yesterday we had 25% of those rewards being emitted, but the idea is that Enosys are going to keep rewarding users who are active for the next 40 weeks. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I think what would be great is, Darren, if you can do a quick intro as to your role at Enosys, and maybe give a quick blurb on what Enosys are as well.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Darren. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Enosys Global. We're a software development group, and one of the main things that we do is run the Enosys DeFi suite on the Flare network, along with their Canary network, Songbird, and we have a few products available on other networks, but we focus primarily on the Flare network. We run infrastructure for the network. We run infrastructure for the enshrined Oracle system on Flare. We run a UniV2 style DEX, a UniV3 style DEX. We have a bridge. We have a multi-sig wallet, and we also now run a friendly fork of Liquity V2. All of those things that we built and run that produce fees are tied into our APY cloud, which is a fee aggregator that aggregates fees from all of our products and brings them in to provide incentives for our governance system to thereby help align the incentive structures for our users, our governance asset holders, and the team itself. So that's kind of the idea behind what we're building, is that we're trying to build a suite of products that all cooperate with each other and support each other, and also produce real yield for our governance system, which is currently distributing at about 14-15% APR in a variety of assets that users who hold HLN or Apsis on the Flare network can stake to earn those rewards over time.
No, thanks for that. That's pretty impressive. The suite of products that you've built. What I'm more interested about is more on the Enosys loan side of things, on the fork side of things. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on what you've changed from the Liquity V2 core protocol? Because I know that, I believe you could highlight a bit more on what you can do on Enosys compared to Liquity V2, like what you've changed really.
Sure. So our main driving force behind wanting to have a Liquity V2 fork was that we saw that there was a huge gap in the market for XRP holders primarily, but also holders of other non-EVM chain assets to get access to a decentralized lending system like this. One of the main features of the Flare network is the enshrined systems that help support an Oracle and a validation network that allow for trustless bridging from non-EVM chains. The first asset being bridged over is XRP as FXRP. That's a trustlessly bridged system that's supported by collateral systems, by an enshrined Oracle system, the Flare Time Series Oracle, which is a core part of the network itself. And so we wanted to address that market by creating a stablecoin that was primarily backed by initially XRP itself. So that's one of the things that we did, was using the FTSO as our Oracle. We are using primarily FXRP as collateral to mint CDP against. We have mint caps in place so that we can expand those collateral offerings in a controlled manner, such that it doesn't get counterbalanced or unbalanced with asset capabilities of the network itself expand. The intention is to add new F assets to the network, such as FBTC, FXLM. Those would be trustlessly bridged versions of those non-EVM assets. And we would be able to add those on as collateral options to essentially create a stable that is backed by some of the deepest liquidity assets that are available on the market. Currently excluding ETH, because there are so many options to borrow against ETH. We're more looking to address those other assets that don't have good borrow options. So that's what we're looking at doing. But yeah, we have those things added. So we have mint caps. We are using the FTSO Oracle, which is a fully decentralized Oracle with over 100 data providers that are providing prices to that Oracle. It's a fully gamified system that allows for really stable, accurate pricing over time. We've added the mint caps. We also have incentives for the earned positions. So when you're in the stability pools, yes, you're still earning the 75% of fees the way you do on the core Liquity V2. But we also have incentives that are tracking your share of the stability pool over time, and those are made available weekly or monthly, depending on which incentive we're talking about. Some of those incentives come from us. Some of them actually come from the network itself. So Flare has a pretty generous incentive system that they're running right now. It's the Flare system. And that allows them to provide incentives to try to grow the network in a way that they would like to see it grow. So it helps support those initiatives of bringing in liquidity from other places to kind of risk off trying a new network. So we have that as well. Those are kind of the major changes that we've made. Do you have any questions about those?
No, I think that's very clear. I really do feel like the idea to have these your native revenue token / governance token along with the Flare Networks reward is actually a smart way to, especially at the start, to kind of bootstrap growth. And I think it shows in the TVL to CDP kind of that you see on your protocol, where you pretty much have 50% at your 9 million TVL, you have like I think 4.5 million or so of CDP minted, which is pretty impressive considering some of the other liquidity friendly forks and also ourselves. It's pretty capital efficient in my opinion. One question that I had was like, have you guys thought about having maybe on Liquity we have this now where we have like a yield bearing bold, an S bold and Y bold, which is kind of like it's a stable coin that earns yield and you can use it across a few other different protocols. Are there plans from your side where, since your yields are quite high, in having like a yield bearing version of the CDP dollar?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to the team from Spectra about this the other day. I don't. There's not a clean offering right now for doing those kinds of vaults from someone external on Flare right now. But yes, creating a yield bearing CDP, which would then be able to be yield traded, is definitely something that we're looking for in the future if we can find a partner to do that. We're also similarly considering the same thing for our governance tokens, given that they are yield bearing as well, with a variable yield based on volumes and fees produced by the product suite. Being able to have those things be yield traded as well just kind of broadens the market out. But yes, we are definitely looking at doing that. Most of what's needed for that to work is in place, but all the pieces aren't there yet to do it. And whether we end up doing that ourselves or finding a partner to do it, we'll see. But that is definitely a next step in this process. Yeah.
Cool. And I think for some of our users, what would also be kind of good to understand a little bit is, I believe you have FXRP, which is like a bridged version of XRP on Flare, but within Flare itself, you also have staked XRP, right? And is that another collateral? I'm guessing that's XRP that generates, I don't know, 2-3% yield or something along those lines. But
so staked XRP is actually a product by Firelight. What the staked XRP is that's bridged XRP that's bridged as FXRP, which is then staked into the Firelight protocol. The Firelight protocol is still in its phase 1, but what that's intended to be is that's an insurance protocol. So it's a DeFi insurance protocol that provides insurance valued in XRP to other protocols. The reason that that's a useful offering to the market is that generally when you're on a network, right? Like if you went to go find insurance on Solana or something, if someone was offering Solana, was offering insurance there, generally that type of insurance would be offered in the network token or in some sort of token that's kind of tied to whatever the risk is. By offering in insurance that's in XRP, that's valued in XRP, there are very few large DeFi offerings out there that would have any sort of cross risk with XRP itself, other than the general network risk of the entire market going down. So that allows them to provide insurance for, potentially they could offer insurance to you on Ethereum backed by XRP. So if there was a contract issue or some sort of issue with Liquity V2, you could ensure that with Firelight and be able to be paid out in the value of XRP to cover whatever the risk event was. So that's what staked XRP is. We are looking at adding that as a collateral option in the future, but we're still in the midst of the risk analysis to kind of see what those parameters would need to be for that as an asset, because there is slashing risk involved when they reach phase 2 and start to actually provide insurance with it.
Awesome. Thanks for that explanation. That's quite clear. In terms of these other bridged BTC variants, FFBTC or whatever, what's like the rough timeline on the Flare side of things to have these? Because I could imagine a scenario where those get adopted quite heavily by users.
Yeah, I believe there are targets to get that at least into full testing on the Canary network this year. I don't know their full targets, but they're currently finishing up building their protocol managed wallet and TEE system, because those bridges are going to use TEEs and protocol managed wallets, which will effectively allow you to trustlessly do things from these other networks that are controlled by the validator set on Flare. So the entire Flare validator set, the decentralized network of validators, the decentralized data connection providers, the decentralized Oracle providers, they're all kind of the same group of infrastructure providers that are providing these services from Flare that help you do things on other networks as well. So the idea is to build those systems out and then start bringing over those other assets. I don't know exactly what their timeline is. I know we're all kind of anticipating it to make some pretty significant progress, if not come to completion this year. But we'll have to see what that looks like. For now, we've got FXRP. So anyone that's holding XRP that isn't doing anything with it right now, there's not a lot you can do with XRP. Look at bringing it to Flare, and look at getting involved in DeFi on the Flare network that you've learned about and done on other networks, but you've never been able to do with your XRP before. We've got concentrated liquidity, we've got lend to borrow, we've got Liquity V2, we've got perps trading, we've got all of these things that are backed by a decentralized Oracle set that's different from the way something like Chainlink works.
No, very cool. And I think moving on to kind of the governance / rewards token that you have, maybe as some of the users here who are listening are also users who are eligible for this airdrop. We can talk about that in a little bit, but maybe before that, what would be great to understand is, obviously they'll be claiming this token called APS, which is your governance revenue token. Could you maybe explain what is APSIS, and what's the governance component of it, what's the revenue component of it, and once users do claim this, what can they do with it on your chain?
Yeah, so APSIS is our primary governance token. We have a bicameral governance system that has a primary and a secondary token. The secondary token was mostly airdropped early on. The primary token APSIS is used as both incentives and as governance. We have a governance system that allows for governance staking, which again earns a percentage of fees from every single product that we have that is fee creating. It targets a yield range of between 5 and 35%. It's intended to be a sustainable, realistic yield. If it goes below that 5% because enough fees are not being produced, then it's got some backup reserves that kick in, or some savings from times when it's gone over 35%. If the fees being produced by the ecosystem exceed that 35% by a large enough amount for a long enough amount of time, then the yield can increase. But the target is to have between 5 and 35% of yield. That yield is in the assets that the fees are being paid in. So we're not doing buybacks and distributions. We're not doing buybacks and burns. We're not doing anything like that. We collect the fees, and those fees are passed directly on every day, every 24 hours. Those fees are passed directly on to the governance staking pools. So if you're staked in the governance pool on a certain day, you'll receive the fees from that day claimable the next day. So that's what's currently available with Apsys in governance. The way we've built our governance system is that we're intending to have actual contract control by governance. So we have parameters that are owned by governance contracts that can be voted on and actually executed on chain by governance itself. There are other things that obviously the team would need to handle, but our intention is to have as many things be actual governance controlled on chain processes as possible. We currently have those available for our V2 decks and our V3 decks, for changes to be able to be made, things to be added, stuff like that. But while staked in governance to do that voting, you're earning fees from the ecosystem, which is currently, like I said, about 15% averaging, and been pretty steady there for a while. There's also there's obviously liquidity pools on our V3 decks, which are incentivized as well. The way we do incentives on our V3 decks, for anyone that's interested, is effectively incentives are provided basically based on fee share. So if you're earning a greater share of the fees, you're also earning a greater share of the incentives. This leads to much higher concentration than most dexes for the liquidity, which leads to us also getting an outsized share of the volume and fees produced on the network. If you go look at Flare network on DeFi Llama and look at the protocols there and look at fees, we are far and away the largest fee producer on the network, which is great for our governance system because, again, those fees are being funneled back into the APY cloud. So that's kind of our ecosystem and where Apsys fits in. We'll be expanding the governance options for Apsys in the future. We don't currently have any plans to add our governance assets as collateral on loans, but that could change in the future. We just don't have any plans for it right now because we're trying to have this be as solid of a stable as possible and not something that's like tied to specifically our ecosystem.
Right, and I think that's a great point you highlight on the concentrated liquidity side of Enosys. So for some of the Liquity users from mainnet that are maybe keen on this, if you go on to the Enosys loans page, you can see that you can borrow. The average rate for borrowing against XRP and Flare is roughly around 8% or so. But what you could essentially do is borrow against either asset at 8%, borrow the CDP dollar, provide liquidity between the CDP dollar and USDT on a pretty aggressive spread of say like 5% or so, and the APRs are, give or take, the last 7 days it seems like the APRs are around 80% or so. Obviously, maybe that might fluctuate and whatnot, but what I'm trying to say is that there is still a spread that you can earn from still holding your XRP while providing liquidity on a stable. So it's like a carry trade where you could earn, theoretically, using my example, 35-40%, but even if those APRs were to come down, we're still talking like 15-20% that you could earn on your XRP, which I don't think that's possible even on mainnet, even on Liquity side. I think with the ETH sort of thing, it's more on the 5 to 8% range, not the range we're talking here. So it's pretty cool way in which you've incentivized you're incentivizing concentrated liquidity.
Yeah, I like to say that we have created PvP for our liquidity providers as well, because on our decks, the liquidity providers are competing with each other to earn the most of the incentives. And that's what creates this much deeper liquidity right around the active point. And that means a lot more volume can go through our pools per unit of TBL than is normal for a DEX, because it's usually much more concentrated. So it handles the normal volatility of a day really, really well because there's really deep liquidity. It can have some spikes when things move out of a range because people try to reposition more often. But it handles the day-to-day volatility really, really well and tends to generate a lot of fees. Also, the rates right now for borrowing are relatively high because we did just have a series of redemptions, which have now been recovered from. But that kind of pushed things up as people learned how that worked. It was the first time that we got into redemption ranges, and so watching the market kind of learn how to handle that was interesting over the last week or so. But that appears to have reached a penalty period. But currently, the earn APRs due to all of that activity are up at 36% for the FXRP earned positions and 47% for the wrapped flare earned positions, which are relatively high, obviously. But that's fees plus our flare incentives from the network plus Apsis incentives from us. One other thing to note: if you do happen to have flare, because you want to be involved in the network and you feel like what they're offering, you want to buy some flare. If you take a position against your wrapped flare, that flare is automatically delegated to the FTSO system for you, and you'll earn a yield off of that as well as its collateral. And that'll be claimable in our incentives page as well.
Very cool. No, it's actually, and for users on mainnet, and we did a blog post on this on our page, but also on a Twitter thread. But if you do want to bridge to Flare, the recommendation is Stargate, correct, Darren?
Yes, use Stargate for bridging USDT 0. That's the primary stable of the network. You can also, if you want to swap to the network, you can use OpenOcean. I believe they have bridge swaps available. So you could swap from ETH or some other network that they're on, and you could swap directly into Flare if you want to just have some Flare for gas, or you can use Stargate and select the option to have them purchase some gas for you.
Correct, and there's also I believe Jumper Exchange that you can use to get some Flare if you want some Flare as gas as well. Cool. So kind of moving on more to the rewards program and how that works for Liquity users. I think as we mentioned yesterday, a portion of the how Enosys are rewarding Liquity users is very interesting, and I think it sets a good template for some of the other forks to follow as well, where they're rewarding 50% to retroactive users who have been Liquity V2 mainnet liquidity providers on the leaderboard that we have. An example is mainnet stability pool, mainnet curve, mainnet Uniswap, mainnet Pendle. Essentially, they got a one-time retro claim yesterday of 52.5 APS, and for the remaining 40 weeks, they're going to get the remaining 75% that's going to get kind of retroactively dripped every week to that cohort. That's like a thank you to our OG users who have been with us for the last year and have stuck through all these different scenarios in the market of volatility and whatnot. But the more interesting thing for me is that there's also half of the airdrop is for an ongoing bucket, essentially, which I believe started from yesterday, Darren, correct? And
yes,
it's going to be also going to be distributed weekly for the next 40 weeks to eligible Liquity users who are continuing to provide liquidity on the same set venues. So Curve, Uniswap, Stability Pool, Pendle, everything you see on the leaderboard. So, if you've been providing liquidity from day one until now, you still get part of the 50% that they're retroactively rewarding, but also for active users, you keep earning from the other bucket too. And this is a great model because this also kind of incentivizes users to stick with it and to continue providing liquidity for Bold as well. So that's why I was kind of asking earlier about what users can do with APS, because I think it's all well and good that they provide liquidity on mainnet for Liquity, but it would be awesome if these users also get interested in the Enosys ecosystem and do more things with your CDP, but also with the token itself.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted this. our reward system here to be helpful to you as well for the future, because obviously it's one thing to tell your users, hey, do these certain things and eventually you'll be rewarded, right? So we're doing that with 50% of it, but it's even better to say, hey, now that you can see these rewards happening, do these things to earn rewards for the next 7 days. So yeah, so every week we're going to be doing a new prior week snapshot of the leaderboard and using that to distribute the other half of the friendly fork licensing fee. So hopefully that drives some to your current active users. Hopefully some of those current active users want to come see what we're doing. I mean, there's not too many opportunities to get effectively free access to a new ecosystem without having to buy something, without having to invest in it. Like these are rewards that you're earning for doing something on the network that you've been primarily involved in. And the Flare network and our ecosystem is now available to you through what you're doing there to come check out what we're doing, to come get involved. If you don't know what you want to do with Apsis, or if you're not sure if you want to hold it, or if you want to sell it or whatever, I would encourage you to look at our governance page, go ahead and stake in governance and just start earning something off of it while you kind of explore things and make up your mind. There's no rush. This is going to be an ongoing thing for 40 weeks. So take your time to look if you want to. I think we're building really cool stuff. I think the Flare network has a bright future ahead of it. It's a great time to get involved because things are actually starting to come to fruition that those of us that have been on this network for years have been waiting for. So it's really kind of a great time to get involved, or at least to start paying attention. And hopefully this prompts some of you to take a minute and read about the network, to read about what we're doing, look at what we're doing. And yeah, for now, if you'd like, stake that Apsis in our governance system, start earning, 15% APR on it, just passively in different assets, which then give you access to other things. So yeah, I mean, that would be my hope, is that this is used to both promote more activity in Liquity V2 on mainnet, but also for people to come check out what we're doing.
No, yeah, that's a very, very good way to put it. And also for our Liquity mainnet users who are maybe thinking about borrowing against XRP or Wrap Flare, I believe you also have one or two delegates, right, who can manage the interest rate for you. Because what we noticed on mainnet is that I think roughly like 40% of our users are currently using the various auto rate managers that we have. I believe that you also have a couple already. So for users who want to borrow against XRP, say, you can also use a delegate on Enosys.
Yes. Nortso, who I believe is in this space, is one of our is an infrastructure provider for the network that runs one of the data providers for the Oracle, for the FTC, that is actually one of the bridge agents for FXRP, and also a community member who uses a lot of our products and is involved with what we're building, is also running an interest rate manager. So you can delegate to them. They're very much involved in what's going on in the network, have been a very proven infrastructure provider for years. So yeah, we do already have at least one. There are others that we're talking to that may be interested, just to allow some diversity in kind of risk profiles. But yeah, we are already offering that for those that might not want to come on and have to, actively manage some new positions. That would give them an option to kind of try it out, but without having to pay quite as much attention.
Very cool. Cool. I think we've got most of the questions answered. I think just for some of our users as well who've been asking, like the incentives that the Enosys are providing, the rewards, they're all just on the Enosys front end on Flare. So you do have to bridge to Flare to claim these rewards. As Darren mentioned, these are weekly, and I believe you don't have to claim each week, right, Darren? Like it kind of
Correct.
keeps it keeps like accumulating if you'd like to. And yeah, for sure, definitely check out their decks. As I mentioned earlier, there's very few venues on mainnet, Ethereum mainnet, where you can get kind of the APRs that the Enosys DEX is providing. I'm just talking about just stable CDP dollar and USDT. You're earning like it's at 85% now, but even if that were number to have, like we're talking very generous incentives for providing concentrated liquidity. And as Darren mentioned, you can also stake APS on the APY cloud and earn 15% in yield from the loans protocol, but also on the from the DEX side of things. Um, Actually, Darren, I did want to kind of ask one question that we've been getting on our Discord is the the availability of Safe on Flare. Like,
Mhm.
what's the status with that? What can users use right now? Maybe if you could give a bit of light to that.
Yeah, I don't know that that Safe itself is on the network. I know that there's a couple ways to deploy multi-sigs. We run a deployment of Safe called Ori. It's not run by the Safe team, but it's a deterministic deployment. I don't know exactly from a technical side how to try to get the same Safe address on the Flare network as you have on ETH. I'm not sure exactly how to do that. But if you have any questions, feel free to come join our Discord as well. You can find Enosys Global here on X or go to our website at enosis.global, and you can follow the official links there and come join our Discord or Telegram. We're happy to answer questions. The community's happy to answer questions. So if you have questions about Ori or doing stuff with Safe, or if you have general questions about our products, it's always better to come ask questions before you try something than try something and then try to ask questions about why it didn't do what you expected. So please come on in and ask your questions in our Discord and our Telegram. We'll be happy to help out as much as we can, and the community will be happy to help as well.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. As I mentioned earlier, this space is recorded, so you can listen back to it. If you'd like to learn more about Enosys, please join their socials. If you want to learn about Liquity V2 and kind of how our model works and how you set your own interest rates and everything, definitely join our Discord as well and respond to us on Twitter. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you so much for your time, Darren, and yeah, keep up the great work for a month to be at where you guys are with terms of TVL and the amount of CDP minted and mainly also the amount of liquidity you have for CDP for users to take leverage or for users to just swap in and out of USDT and whatnot. It's pretty great to see, and I hope that this number grows and grows in the coming months.
All right. Yep. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Okay, guys, there we have it. That was a space. I thought it was quite good. There was obviously no nuggets, let's say, but I think it's always good to get a recap on these kind of protocols. You know, the more you're exposed to this sort of terminology and all of the acronyms and being involved with just listening into these things, you really do get to absorb it and get a better understanding of how things actually work. I've been quite bullish on Enosys for quite a long time now, and specifically the governance tokens, APS, Apsis, and Helion. I think Darren did a great job. I think one thing he could have highlighted a little bit more was the APY cloud, which is, you know, basically the heart of their ecosystem. Just to give you a bit of a overview before we leave here, APS has two governance tokens, Apsis and Helion, and you can stake them in their governance system called the APY cloud. And the APY cloud distributes yield based on all of the fees from all of their protocols, whether it's the loans platform, whether it's the decentralized exchange, whether it's any of their platform fees, they go into this treasury, the APY cloud, and that is emitted to the holders of these governance tokens. So if you're holding a governance token from Enosys, you're basically betting on the success or get to enjoy the success of Enosys itself. Um, yeah, that is it. I thought it was a good space. I'm very grateful for everyone that's tuning in. If you are new here, please feel free to subscribe and like the video. We will be dropping a video later today with a weekly news roundup, as we normally do. I'd just like to say a big thank you, and especially for those who are supporting what I'm building and delegating with Digital Dynamix. It's an infrastructure provider. We're supporting the network, and if you want to show some support for the videos and the content that I've been creating over the past 5 years, then please do consider delegating or staking with Digital Dynamix. Okay, guys, I'll catch you later in the video for the weekly news update. Do enjoy the rest of your day.